Welcome, dear friends, and thank you for joining me tonight for another quiet journey through the softer side of history. If you're returning to the channel, I'm grateful to have you back. And if you're new here, welcome to this peaceful corner of the world, a place where history settles gently and sleep comes a little easier. Before we begin, feel free to subscribe if you'd like more calm bedtime stories like this. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you never miss a night of restful wondering. Now, let me share a small thought to guide you into tonight's story. For thousands of years, before electricity, before street lamps, before alarms and glowing screens, the night shaped every part of human life, and the way our ancestors slept, the rituals they practiced, the fears they carried, the dreams they believed in helped build the world we live in today. That is the world we're stepping into tonight. So, settle in. Let your shoulders loosen, let your breath slow, and allow the quiet hush of the past to wrap around you gently. Perhaps dim your lights, pull your blankets closer, and let whatever followed you through the day begin to fall away. Tonight, we will wander through ancient nights. We'll sit beside the first fires that kept early humans safe. We'll walk through Egyptian dream temples where people slept in search of messages from the gods. We'll listen to monks chanting softly in cold stone halls, and we'll drift into medieval homes where families, travelers, and even animals shared warmth through the long hours of darkness. Together, we'll explore how different civilizations slept, what they dreamed about, what they feared, and how the night shaped their lives in ways both familiar and surprising. This story is meant to guide you slowly toward reststeady.com, and when my voice fades at the end, gentle, relaxing music will continue, helping you drift into deeper and more peaceful sleep. So now, take a slow breath. Let the past open its doors, and step with me into the quiet mystery of how the ancient world slept. When the world slept differently, welcome, dear friend, and welcome back to another quiet journey through the soft corridors of history. Tonight, we begin not in any single year, or empire, or forgotten kingdom, but in the gentle space between day and night, that ancient threshold, where humanity has always paused, breathed, and surrendered itself to sleep. So before we step into the story, feel free to settle deeper into your blankets. Loosen any lingering tension from your shoulders, and let the world around you grow still. The torchlight of the past is already flickering in the distance, waiting for us. Tonight's path will be slow, warm, and unhurried, a journey shaped not by battles or kings, but by the oldest ritual in the human story, the simple act of closing our eyes. For all our modern comforts, pillows shaped by memory foam, rooms protected by glass and steel, clocks that divide our days into neat little squares, sleep has never lost its quiet mystery. And in the thousands of years before our world brightened with electricity, people approached the night very differently than we do today. For them, darkness was not just the absence of light. It was a landscape, a shape-shifting kingdom, a world unto itself. Every civilization, from the shepherds who watched the first fires crackle on prehistoric plains, to the pharaohs of Egypt dreaming beneath linen sheets, to the monks waking at midnight in cold stone halls, carried its own understanding of what sleep truly was. To some, it was healing. To others, a spiritual voyage. And to many, it was a vulnerable crossing into a realm filled with gods, demons, dreams, or the restless footsteps of ancestors. Tonight, we begin gently, as the night itself once began. We dim the lamps of the ancient world, one by one. Imagine them. Oil lamps flickering in Babylonian windows, candles guttering in medieval villages, the warm glow of hearth fires dying into embers. Slowly, all these lights fade until only moonlight remains, silver and calm, stretching across centuries like a soft veil. Your breath may slow as you picture it, a world illuminated only by flame and stars, a quieter world where every night was a return to the unknown. But despite that unknown, sleep called to our ancestors just as it calls to us now. And in answering that call, they developed habits, rituals, fears, and comforts that shaped their lives in ways both strange and beautiful. Tonight, we step into those nights, the forgotten nights. The nights that shaped humanity long before alarm clocks or glowing screens. We will wander gently through 13 chapters, each one a doorway into a different world of sleep. Maybe you'll imagine yourself curling beside a Paleolithic fire, listening to the wind hum through the trees, or resting in an Egyptian dream temple, where priests whispered interpretations into incense-filled halls. Perhaps we'll drift into the medieval countryside, where families huddled beneath scratchy blankets, their sleep broken into two quiet halves, a rhythm shaped not by science, but by darkness itself. And as we walk, the pace will remain soft. There is no haste in the world of sleep. Our journey, like the night, unfolds slowly, with deep breaths, warm imagery, and gentle pauses, where you may drift, if you wish, into dreams of your own. Because tonight's story is meant not just to teach, but to comfort, to soothe. To ease your mind into rest by reminding you that sleep is one of the oldest companions we humans have ever known. Long before temples or kingdoms or empires, sleep was already there, watching over us, renewing us, guiding our bodies and minds through the silent hours between dusk and dawn. Across every continent, people sought ways to protect themselves from what they could not see. They placed charms under pillows, whispered prayers before lying down, or positioned their beds beside firelight to chase away the cold. Some believed their souls wandered during sleep, drifting far from their bodies. Others feared the night as a time when spirits crept close, when demons prowled, or when nightmares carried warnings from beyond. Yet still, night after night they slept, just as you do now. And beneath all the rituals and fears, a universal truth glimmered softly. The night, though mysterious, was also a sanctuary, a place where worries loosened their grip, where breath returned to its natural rhythm, and where dreams wove their quiet stories across the mind. Even in the harshest times, through winters, through wars, through hunger or plague, sleep remained a refuge, a small, consistent peace in an unpredictable world. Tonight, you and I will walk through the vast tapestry of those ancient nights. We will touch the woven threads of superstition, science, ritual, and survival. We will listen gently to the whispers of civilizations that rose and fell long before ours, all of them guided, in some way, by the soft rhythm of sleep. As we begin, imagine yourself standing on the edge of a great moonlit plain, the plain of human history at night. Around you, small dots of firelights shine like stars fallen to earth. Each one is a different time, a different culture, a different way of closing the eyes and surrendering to the dark. Over there burns the fire of early humans. Farther along glows the torch of a temple in Thebes, a flickering lantern in medieval France, a clay lamp in Babylon, a single candle in a Roman villa, all separated by centuries, yet united by the simple need to rest. This is where our story begins, in the soft hum of the world as it slips into nighttime. A world quieter than ours, slower than ours, more deeply connected to the earth and the heavens. A world where every night felt a little enchanted. So take a breath now. A slow, steady breath, and allow the day to dissolve around you. Let the weight of your body sink comfortably into whatever supports you. The past is opening its door. The torches are dimmed. The world is ready to sleep. And in this gentle darkness, we begin chapter 1 of our journey, not with fear, nor with ruse, but with gratitude for the night itself. For sleep, in all its forms, is a bridge from the noise of the world to the quiet within ourselves. You are safe here, dear friend. The night is soft, and our story is just beginning. Before beds existed, the first human nights let us drift now, dear friend, far deeper into the past. Past the kingdoms and temples, past the first cities, past even the earliest stories carved into stone. We are going somewhere older, quieter, untouched by walls, or tools, or civilization itself. We are going to the very first nights of humankind. Close your eyes for a moment, if you'd like, and imagine a world without houses, without fences, without firelight shining through windows. The air is sharper, wilder. The wind carries the scent of earth, of grasses bending in the dark, of distant animals shifting through brush. The moon above is the same moon you know now. But here, in this ancient landscape, it shines without rival, the brightest lantern in a world where nothing human yet competes with it. This is where our story continues, where the first humans slept beneath open skies. Imagine a small circle of early humans, our distant ancestors huddled together at the edge of a clearing. There are no beds, no blankets, no carved pillows, only the ground beneath them, softened by leaves and moss, and the warmth of bodies pressed close for protection. Their breaths rise like faint fog into the cool night. Their day has been spent in movement, gathering fruit, hunting small animals, searching for water, carrying children, navigating dangers that linger even in sunlight. By the time dusk settles, exhaustion covers them like a second skin, but they cannot yet surrender to sleep. In their world, darkness is a hunter. Predators see better in the night than humans ever could. To sleep alone would be to invite danger. So they sleep together, a practice that would shape the next thousands of years of human life. There is comfort in closeness, safety and shared warmth. Even now, traces of that ancient memory tug at us. When a quiet night feels lonely, or when a warm presence eases us into rest. But before these early humans can sleep, they must build their greatest invention. Not a tool, not a weapon, but something far gentler. Fire. Picture the moment. A small cluster of sparks catches on dried grass, and then a flame. It flickers, grows, stretches upward in a soft orange bloom. Around it, shadows leap back, startled. The early humans gaze at it as you or I might gaze at a miracle, for in many ways it is one. Fire gives warmth. Fire cooks food. Fire keeps predators away. But tonight, for the first time in our story, fire becomes something else. Entirely a companion of sleep. They gather close, letting its heat seep into their bones. Children curl against parents. Hunters rest their backs against tree trunks. A few, the night watchers, remain half awake, their eyes scanning the dark for movement. These watchers will drift into shallow sleep only when dawn returns. Their role is as old as humanity itself. Protect the sleepers. This tradition of night watch, of taking turns guarding the sleeping group, would last tens of thousands of years, even in later civilizations, in villages, in castles, in monasteries. In nomadic camps, someone always remained awake, keeping the night at bay. But here, in the very first nights, fire is the only true guardian. Its crackling becomes the soft lullaby of ancient humanity. Its light steadies the mind. Its warmth tells the body, you are safe enough to rest. And slowly, one by one, as the flames dance in golden arcs, the earliest humans drift into dreams. Now, imagine how different their dreams must have been. Dreams shaped not by city lights or worries about work, but by primal instincts, by the rise and fall of the sun, by the movement of animals, by hunger, by hope. Their dreams might have been vivid, strange, laced with images of predators or forest paths or the faces of loved ones long gone. Sleep itself would have been shorter, lighter, interrupted by shifting sounds, a snapping twig, a rustling bush, the distant cry of an animal. Every noise carried meaning, every shadow carried caution. Before beds, the world was not quiet. It breathed and murmured and approached from every direction. Sleep was a negotiation between the body's need for rest and the mind's need for vigilance. And yet, despite all of this, they slept. Not perfectly, not deeply, but enough, because humans, even then, understood that without sleep, no hunt could succeed, no journey could continue, no child could grow. Sleep was survival. It was sacred in a way far older than temples. Over thousands of years, early humans began to soften their sleeping spaces, gathering leaves, grasses, furs, even soft bark to create primitive bedding. Caves offered shelter from wind and rain. Hollowed-out depressions in the ground became nests, and eventually, small raised platforms of branches lifted sleepers slightly above the damp earth. These were the first beds, humble, uneven, but revolutionary. A small gesture of comfort in a harsh world. With better bedding came deeper sleep. With deeper sleep came dreams that lasted long enough to give the mind space to imagine, to create, to think beyond the immediate needs of the day. Some historians believe that the evolution of sleep, deeper, safer sleep, helped shape the evolution of human thought itself. Around the fire, stories began to form. Myths, whispers, explanations for the strange shapes seen in dreams, or the patterns of stars overhead. Night, one's only feared, became a space of imagination, a quiet teacher. By the time tens of thousands of years passed, the night watch in tradition transformed. No longer mere survival, it became ritual. Some groups designated specific individuals as guardians of the night. People believed to possess keen senses or spiritual strength. These watchers kept the fire alive, listened to the wind, murmured soothing words to children, and prepared the camp for dawn. And all the while, the world above changed. Stars shifted. Seasons drifted. Animals evolved, but the human need for shared warmth, for firelight, for rest, that remained unchanged. Now, dear friend, as you picture that ancient fire glowing in the dark, perhaps you feel a small echo of the comfort it once provided. Humanity's first light against the night, humanity's first pillow of leaves, humanity's first fading thought before sleep. These earliest nights shaped everything that followed: the beds of pharaohs, the straw pallets of serfs, the perfumed chambers of emperors, the cold cells of monks. Before all of that, there was simply earth, fire, and the gentle rise and fall of breathing in the dark. Tonight, you join a lineage older than memory, a lineage of dreamers beneath open skies, a lineage of sleepers seeking warmth, safety, and rest. The world may have changed, but the night remains the same. Quiet, vast, patient. And with this, our second chapter comes to a close. A soft reminder that sleep has always been both a necessity and a mystery, stretching back to the very first humans who dared to close their eyes beneath the stars. Egypt's sacred sleep, dreams. As messages from gods, let us travel now, dear friend, from the open plains of early humanity into a world shaped by stone, sand, and starlight. A world where sleep was not merely a bodily need, but a doorway, a shimmering, sacred threshold between mortals and the divine. Tonight, we drift into ancient Egypt, a civilization that breathed ritual into every part of life, even the quiet hours of night. Here, sleep was not only a healer of the body, it was a messenger of the gods. Imagine for a moment the warm hush of an Egyptian evening. The sun, that great golden deity, has slipped beneath the desert horizon. The sky glows with fading amber, then melts into deep blue. The air cools gently, carrying the scent of lotus, papyrus, and the faint dust of the day's work. Along the Nile, water reflects the last of the light like molten bronze. As darkness spreads, lanterns flicker to life. Their delicate flames tremble inside small clay dishes filled with oil. Homes glow softly. Temples glow brighter. And across Egypt, people prepare to sleep, not merely to rest, but to open themselves to something larger than themselves. For the Egyptians believed that dreams were communications, not fantasies. Not random images, but messages, sometimes warnings, sometimes blessings, delivered through the veil of night by gods, goddesses, ancestors, or wandering spirits. Sleep, to them, was a holy conversation. Let us step inside an ordinary Egyptian home, a place simple yet filled with meaning. The bed is raised slightly above the floor, carved from wood, with woven cords or reeds stretched across the frame. Over it lies a mattress of linen stuffing, soft by ancient standards, cool against the heat of the desert night. Linen sheets, woven with the skill Egypt was famed for, rest atop the bed like smooth, pale river water. A woman kneels beside it. She closes her eyes and whispers a quiet prayer to Base, the protective dwarf god with leonine features, guardian of childbirth, music, and sleep. Base was believed to chase away nightmares and mischievous spirits, shaking his small but mighty fists in any darkness lurking near the bed. Children clutched tiny amulets of Base beneath their pillows. Mothers traced symbols of protection across doorways. Fathers placed carved ivory wands, inscribed with magical spells, near sleeping spaces to guard the family through the night. In Egypt, sleep required protection and reverence alike. But dreams... dreams were different. Dreams were precious. The Egyptians recorded dreams carefully. On papyrus scrolls, on Astruca shards of pottery, even on temple walls, there were dream books listing symbols and interpretations. A man sees himself drowning, it means prosperity. A woman dreams of water overflowing, it means sorrow approaches. A dream of a cat, a sign of good fortune. These interpretations were not casual superstitions. They were woven deeply into Egyptian spiritual life. To dream was to communicate with the unseen. Now, imagine those who wanted not only to receive dreams, but to seek them. For that, they journeyed to the sacred places, the dream temples, known as incubation chambers. These temples were devoted to gods associated with knowledge, healing, and prophecy. Chief among them was Serapis, a deity worshipped for his power to cure illness through dreams. Let us step inside such a temple. Walk with me beneath towering stone columns carved with lotus buds and papyrus stems. Torches flicker along the walls, casting golden halos on hieroglyphic texts that shimmer like living words. Incense, thick, warm, aromatic, curls through the air in delicate ribbons, filling your lungs with a sweetness that quiets the mind. Here, sleep is ritual. Here, dreams are gateways. A pilgrim steps into the inner chamber, feeling the chill of the stone floor beneath their bare feet. Maybe they're looking for a cure for an ailment. Or perhaps they're in search of wisdom to navigate a difficult choice. Or perhaps someone comes simply to understand their destiny. For Egyptians believed destiny was etched not in the palm, but in the quiet language of dreams. Priests guide the supplicants to a sacred space, often a raised platform or a chamber carved deep into the temple's heart. They chant prayers, offering flowers, bread, milk, or oil to the deity of the temple, and then under the watch of the sacred fire, the pilgrims lie down. The chamber is dark, except for the faint glow of lamps. The air is warm, sweet with resin. Silence settles like a gentle cloak, and slowly, one by one, the sleepers drift into the realm where gods might speak. Sometimes, dreams came as visions, a god appearing directly, offering words of comfort or instruction. Other times, dreams were symbolic. A falcon taking flight, a serpent circling water, a rising sun, a broken jar. All carried meaning, all required interpretation. Upon waking, the dreamers would speak with priests trained in the art of deciphering these nocturnal messages. Their counsel guided everything from medicine to politics, personal decisions to the fate of entire families. Imagine how profoundly dreams influenced life then. How a single vision could change a person's path. A dream of a shining river might inspire someone to travel north. A dream of fire might warn someone to remain home. A dream of a god's touch might renew hope in the sick. Sleep in Egypt was rarely just sleep. It was a ritual of surrender, a nightly pilgrimage, a form of divine listening. Even pharaohs believed their dreams shaped the kingdom's future. Some wore protective charms under their pillows. Others slept in particular directions to invite favorable visions. The famous dream stele of Thutmose recounts how a young prince, resting beneath the Sphinx, dreamt that the great statue spoke to him and promised kingship if he cleared the sands around its body. He awoke, obeyed, and became pharaoh, attributing his destiny to a single dream. Now, dear friend, imagine yourself lying in an Egyptian chamber, linen against your skin, the scent of blue lotus drifting through the air. Outside, the Nile whispers softly, and the wind carries faint echoes of desert creatures moving through the dunes. You close your eyes, your breath slows, the world of the living fades, and in the darkness, the veil grows thin, the place where gods and humans meet. The Egyptians believed that the soul wandered during sleep, leaving the body to travel through dream realms. But always it returned, carrying messages, glimpses, warnings, and blessings. Whether or not those dreams truly came from gods, we cannot know. But what we can know is the profound comfort these beliefs offered in a world filled with uncertainty. Floods, disease, intrigue, fate. Sleep was not simply a pause from life. It was a way to seek guidance, to feel watched over, to hear something sacred whispering through the night. And perhaps, as you rest tonight, you might feel a small echo of that ancient comfort. The idea that sleep is not emptiness, but a quiet journey, a place where the mind wanders freely and returns renewed. As we leave Egypt's dream temples behind, we carry their gentle lesson with us. Sleep is a conversation, dreams are stories, and the night is never silent. Mesopotamia's night guardians tonight, dear friend. We drift eastward from the soft sands of Egypt into a land shaped by rivers and clay, a land where sleep was never taken lightly. Welcome to ancient Mesopotamia, cradle of the world's first cities, first laws, first myths, and some of the oldest fears ever whispered into the night. Here, between the winding arms of the Tigris and Euphrates, night was not simply darkness. It was a realm alive with unseen forces, spirits, omens, shadows that moved through the air like smoke. And to sleep was to risk crossing into their world. Let us begin gently. Imagine a quiet Mesopotamian village at dusk. The sun sinks low over flat, fertile plains, painting the sky in strokes of copper and rose. Clay houses, warm from the day's heat, release their warmth into the cooling air. Smoke rises from hearths where evening meals are prepared. Children gather inside. Animals settle, and slowly, the familiar hush of night begins to wrap itself around the land. Yet for the people who lived here thousands of years ago, night was not comforting. It was unpredictable, sacred, and often dangerous. In Mesopotamia, people believed that the world after sundown belonged to beings far older and more powerful than humans. Some were protective, many were not. Sleep was considered a vulnerable state, a time when the soul could wander and unwanted presences might slip through cracks, doorways, or dreams. So before sleeping, the Mesopotamians prepared themselves carefully. Inside a small mud brick home, a family gathers around a low-burning clay lamp. Its flame trembles softly, casting gentle halos on the walls. Nearby, a mother takes a tiny clay figurine, an amulet shaped like a guardian spirit, and places it beneath her child's bedding. The figurine's face is round, kind, with large protective eyes. It is meant to watch over the child through the long, unpredictable night. In another home, a father rolls a small cylinder seal across a strip of clay. The seal leaves behind delicate impressions, protective symbols, tiny winged guardians, inscriptions invoking peace. He places the clay tablet near his bed, a barrier woven not of wood or stone, but of magic and meaning. These rituals were common, for Mesopotamia was a land of night guardians, beings called upon to shield sleepers from harm. But where there were guardians, there were also enemies. The Mesopotamians feared a host of nocturnal entities, some malevolent, some mischievous, some simply misunderstood. Among them, Lamashtu, the terrifying Shidaman, who stalked the vulnerable. Pazuzu, a fierce wind spirit whose frightening shape actually protected humans from worse dangers. Lil and Lil, to night spirits who wandered through dreams or caused disturbances in sleep. These beings were not imaginary to the people of Mesopotamia. They were part of daily life. People knew their names, feared their influence, prayed to avoid them. Imagine lying down to sleep in such a world. The clay walls around you hold the heat of the day. The air smells faintly of baked earth and burning oil. Outside, the distant sounds of night birds and insects echo through the fields. You close your eyes, but your mind remains alert, aware that sleep is not just rest. It is a crossing. Mesopotamians believed the soul left the body during sleep, traveling into dream worlds or wandering among spirits. If something interfered, if a demon took notice, if a god wished to send a message, the sleeper was affected. Dreams were not simply images. They were events. This deep belief in the power of dream and nightmare led to one of the most remarkable traditions in ancient history: dream interpretation through clay tablets. Archaeologists have found entire collections of dream manuals, lists of dreams and their meanings written in cuneiform, the world's earliest known writing system. If a man dreamt, he drowned. It meant prosperity. If he dreamed of eating too much, it signaled abundance. If he saw a wild dog, Danger hovered nearby. One ancient text begins with the words, "If a man sees himself in a dream," and then proceeds to offer dozens of interpretations. Dreams were messages, warnings, omens, sometimes from the gods, sometimes from wandering spirits, sometimes from the soul itself, reaching for understanding. And nightmares were treated with even greater seriousness. Imagine a man waking abruptly, breath unsteady, heart pounding. He has seen something awful, a shadow, a creature, a message carved in fire. In Mesopotamia, this was not dismissed. It was recorded, analyzed, brought to priests trained in the art of dream interpretation. Remedies might be suggested, prayers offered, amulets given. Nightmares were intrusions, and they required answers. To protect themselves, Mesopotamians often placed incantation bowls beneath their beds. These bowls were inscribed with spiraling text meant to trap harmful spirits, binding them so they could not reach the sleeper. Imagine one now. A clay bowl turned upside down. Inside, lines of Aramaic script circle inward, like a gentle vortex. At the center rests a symbol, a guardian figure, arms outstretched, a small, humble barrier between the human heart and the fears of the night. But it wasn't only spirits that worried Mesopotamians. Night was the kingdom of uncertainty. Wolves moved silently along riverbanks. Storm winds rose without warning. Floodwaters shifted. The world felt different after dark, looser, more fragile, as if ordinary rules had stepped aside. So people guarded themselves, not just physically, but spiritually. They burned fragrant woods. They recited protective spells. They wore amulets, shaped like lions, fish, stars, or winged beings. They slept near family, even neighbors, to share safety. In their vulnerability, community became protection. Yet despite all their fears, sleep also brought wonder. Mesopotamians believed dreams offered glimpses of divine intention, the will of gods like Enki, Ishtar, and Shamash. A king might dream of victory. A farmer might dream of rain. A pregnant woman might dream of prosperity. All of these were interpreted with care, shaping decisions and guiding destinies. Even one of the world's oldest known stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is filled with significant dreams. In it, dreams foretell journeys, warn of danger, or reveal the truths of friendship and mortality. Sleep, in this land of clay and reeds, was a form of prophecy. And yet, when dawn finally came, all the terrors of night dissolved into light. The guardians receded. The demons fled. The wind softened. Life resumed. Farmers led animals to fields. Artisans opened workshops. Children played in dusty courtyards. The night was forgotten until it returned again. Now, dear traveler, as you rest and imagine the soft glow of a clay lamp flickering against ancient walls, perhaps you understand the heart of Mesopotamian sleep, a balance of fear and reverence, a desire for protection, a hope for meaning. Night in Mesopotamia was never empty. It was alive with unseen presences and quiet possibilities. It demanded respect, and we leave this land of old rivers and older shadows behind, carrying forward its lesson. Even in the presence of night's mysteries, humans have always sought ways to feel safe, to find meaning, to dream gently beneath the watchful guardians of the dark. Greece and Rome. Philosophy, luxury, and sleepless anxiety let us drift now across the Mediterranean Sea, where warm winds brush the coasts of marble cities, where olive groves shimmer beneath sunlit hills, and where night settles slowly over the ancient worlds of Greece and Rome. Here, sleep was no simple necessity. It was observed, analyzed, even debated, a philosophical puzzle, a medical mystery, a nightly ritual, tangled in luxury and fear alike. Imagine evening descending over Athens. The last golden threads of sunlight spill across white stone temples. The Parthenon glows softly atop its sacred hill, like a lantern overlooking the city. In narrow streets, shopkeepers shutter their stalls. Lamps flicker to life. The smell of baking bread and wood smoke drifts through the air. Villagers, merchants, philosophers, all begin the quiet preparations for sleep. But for the Greeks, Sleep was more than a place of rest. It was a state governed by gods. Hypnos, gentle god of sleep, was believed to drift across the world on silent wings, closing the eyes of mortals with the softest touch. His twin brother, Thanatos, the spirit of peaceful death, followed behind him a reminder that sleep and death were eternally intertwined. This belief alone shaped how the Greeks approached the night. Sleep was both sacred and fragile, beautiful, yet unnervingly close to the unknown. Let's step inside an Athenian home. The floors are smooth, the air warm. A small clay lamp glows beside a neatly made bed, a wooden frame stretched with leather or woven straps, topped with a mattress filled with wool or straw. A linen sheet covers it, soft but plain. A philosopher, perhaps a student of Plato or Aristotle, kneels beside the bed, deep in contemplation. For the Greeks, even sleep invited questions. What happens to the soul during rest? Why do we dream? Is sleep a kind of temporary death? Aristotle himself wrote about dreams with seriousness, suggesting that they reflected bodily changes or emotional disturbances. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, studied sleep to understand illness. Even common people believed that dreams carried prophetic meaning. But despite these intellectual pursuits, Greek nights were often troubled. Many struggled with insomnia, described in ancient texts as a torment of the soul. Some blamed it on indigestion, others on overthinking. Some believed restless spirits wandered through the night, disrupting one's peace. To help themselves sleep, Greeks used warm baths, diluted wine, fragrant herbs, or whispered prayers to Hypnos. Peaceful sleep was a blessing, but not guaranteed. Now let us journey westward, across the sea, to the vast empire of Rome. Rome, where grandeur met anxiety, where luxury existed beside uncertainty, where sleep was both indulgent and deeply vulnerable. In a Roman bija, the contrast between rich and poor becomes unmistakable. Step into the bedroom of a wealthy Roman, perhaps a senator or noblewoman. The room glows with lamplight reflected on polished marble. The bed is wide, framed in carved wood or bronze. The mattress is stuffed with feathers or soft wool. Fine linen sheets drape over the bed like flowing river water. A slave adjusts a pillow filled with goose down. Another brings scented oil, perhaps lavender, myrrh, or rose, and gently massages it into the noble's arms and feet to encourage a restful night. Roman elites took their sleep seriously. Some slept in perfumed rooms, designed to calm the senses. Others reclined on couches draped in silk. Some even had sleep slaves whose job was to tend to their comfort through the night, adjusting blankets, maintaining lamps, or waking them gently at dawn. Yet for all this luxury, Roman nobles often slept poorly. Politics haunted their thoughts. Enemies lurked in shadows. Night was the time when assassins struck, when conspiracies formed, when uncertainty crept into the heart. Many Romans slept lightly, half listening for danger. Now, step outside the villa, leave the cool marble and perfumed air. Walk down the narrow streets where common people lived in crowded insulae, tall apartment buildings made of wood and brick. Here, sleep was a different experience entirely. Families slept on straw mats or simple wooden cots. The buildings were flammable, noisy, and filled with neighbors packed closely together. Arguments echoed through thin walls. Fires broke out frequently. Rats scattered in the dark. Many Romans slept on rooftops during hot summers, beneath the open night, letting the breeze cool their tired bodies. Others slept in courtyards or on simple benches. Privacy was rare. Comfort even rarer. And yet, despite these hardships, the night carried its own rhythm. A mixture of exhaustion, routine, and community. Roman doctors offered advice for better sleep. Avoid heavy meals at night. Drink warmed milk with honey. Avoid sleeping on your left side. Keep your feet warm. The advice feels oddly familiar, as if ancient and modern worries about sleep have never truly changed. Then there were dreams. Romans, like the Greeks, were captivated by them. While philosophers debated the meaning of visions, ordinary people believed dreams were messages from God's ancestors. or even political omens. Entire armies marched based on the dreams of generals. Emperors consulted dream interpreters. Families kept dream manuals on hand, filled with symbolic meanings. If a man dreamt of losing his teeth, it foretold the death of a relative. If he dreamt of water rising, wealth might flow into his life. If he dreamt of fire consuming his home, danger approached. Dream interpretation was a thriving art, and fear of nightmares was widespread. Some Romans even believed that malevolent spirits visited sleepers, pressing upon their chests and stealing their breath, a belief that would later help shape the medieval concept of the night hag. Now, as we rest quietly in this world of oils, villas, straw beds, and crowded insulae, a picture begins to form. In both Greece and Rome, sleep was a mirror of society. The wealthy sought luxury and control. The poor slept where they could. Philosophers dissected its meaning. Priests interpreted its warnings. Doctors tried their best to explain its mysteries. But across all classes, one thing remained constant. Night was a time of vulnerability, a moment when even the greatest of empires lay still, their armies resting, their rulers dreaming, their cities breathing in slow, rhythmic cadence. Perhaps, as you imagine the soft glow of an oil lamp flickering against a marble wall, or the warm breeze drifting across a Roman rooftop, you feel a connection to those who slept before us. They worried as we do. They hoped as we do. They sought peace, comfort, and meaning in their dreams, just as you seek rest now. And in this understanding, we feel a gentle truth settle over the centuries. Sleep is universal, a quiet bond between all who have ever lived, a nightly return to vulnerability and renewal. With this, our journey through Greece and Rome comes to a soft close. Their nights, filled with philosophy, luxury, fear, and longing, fade gently into the dark, and we drift onward into the even stranger shadows of the medieval world. The medieval night. Segmented sleep and strange rituals. Let us drift now, dear friend, into a world of flickering candles, wooden beams, quiet chapels, and moonlit fields. A world where nights stretched long and deep, shaping lives in ways we have nearly forgotten. Welcome to the medieval night, a place both familiar and strangely foreign, a world where sleep unfolded in two halves, a first slumber, a waking hour in the middle of the night, and a second, deeper rest before dawn. This rhythm, called segmented sleep, was not unusual. It was simply life. And if you lived in Europe 500 or 900 years ago, you likely knew no other way. Let us enter a medieval village. As twilight falls, the fields beyond the cottages lie silent now, their crops shrouded in the cool blue mist of evening. Animals shift in their pens. A dog barks, then quiets. Smoke drifts lazily from the last cooking fires, carrying with it the scent of barley, cabbage, and wood ash. Inside the cottages, people prepare for the night. Light is precious. Candles made from tallow burn quickly and smell faintly unpleasant. Beeswax candles are expensive luxuries reserved for churches or wealthy homes. So when darkness comes, most people surrender to it. Families gather in a single room. A small hearth burns low, more for comfort than heat. The straw-filled mattresses rustle as people settle into place. It may surprise you to know that families, even neighbors and travelers, often shared beds. A bed was not an intimate, private place. It was practical. A way to keep warm, a way to conserve space, a way to feel safe when night outside was thick with uncertainty. Imagine now the feel of such a bed. Rough linen sheets, a mattress stuffed with straw that shifts beneath the body, woolen blankets woven tightly, scratchy but warm. Pests, unfortunately, are common companions, fleas, lice, and bedbugs that thrive in straw and wooden frames. People accepted them as part of life, though not happily. The medieval night was not clean, nor silent, nor comfortable by modern standards. And yet, there was something deeply human about it. Something communal, warm, shared. As the family settles, they murmur prayers, often to ward off the dangers believed to roam in darkness. Medieval people feared the night, not out of superstition alone, but because the world after sundown genuinely became dangerous. Thieves traveled under moonlight. Wolves and other predators prowled near the edges of villages. Spirits, too, were believed to wander, lonely souls, demons, or angels moving between heaven and earth. To sleep, then, was an act of trust. Little by little, the room quiets. The hearth sighs, the candle gutters, and dies, and the family falls into their first sleep, primo somna, as it was later named. This first sleep usually lasted several hours. It was heavy, dream-filled, restorative, and then, quite naturally, people woke, not anxiously, not abruptly, but gently, as though stirred by the night itself. This period between sleeps, sometimes lasting 1 hour, sometimes 2, was known as the watch or the midnight waking. And during this quiet, liminal time, a wide range of nightly rituals unfolded. Some people prayed, believing the hours after midnight were spiritually potent, a time when the boundary between earthly and divine seemed thinner. Some used the time to tend the fire, fix household items, or check on animals. Others whispered quietly in the dark. Lovers, spouses, parents comforting children. Some even visited neighbors for a brief chat, using moonlight to illuminate their short walk. It was a gentle interval, peaceful, unhurried. Medieval households accepted this waking as natural. Sleep was not expected to be continuous. It came in phases, like the tides. Imagine yourself in such a cottage now. You awaken after several hours of deep rest. The moonlight spills faintly through the cracks in the shutters. The room is cool. You can hear your family breathing softly beside you, a comforting chorus. The hearth glows with a low, orange warmth. You sit up, wrap a woolen shawl around your shoulders, and quietly adjust the bedding. Perhaps you whisper a prayer, a habit nearly universal at the time. Perhaps you simply sit and look into the soft embers, thinking of the day's labors or the coming sunrise. There is something almost sacred about this quiet hour. A space for reflection, a moment where the world feels paused. After this waking, people drift naturally into second sleep, secundu somna menos aliter, dream-rich slumber that carried them gently into dawn. Now, let us wander beyond the village, into the world of medieval inns and travelers. Traveling by day was challenging. Traveling by night was downright perilous. Inns were very crowded and often uncomfortable, yet vital for those who journeyed long distances. Step into such an inn with me. The room is warm from the bodies packed inside it. A dozen travelers share 2 or 3 beds, lying shoulder to shoulder, sometimes even foot to head. Snoring fills the air. Someone coughs. Someone mutters in their sleep. The straw mattress dips under the weight, releasing little bursts of dust. Privacy is non-existent. Comfort is inconsistent. But safety, the safety of not sleeping alone on a dark road, is priceless. Many travelers slept with one hand on their bags, or with belts wrapped tightly around their waists. Thieves roamed freely in some parts of medieval Europe, and night offered perfect cover. Even so, conversation often flowed before sleep. Stories, songs, tales of distant towns. In the dim glow of lanterns, strangers became temporary companions, united by fatigue and necessity. And yet, despite the chaos and closeness, medieval travelers accepted this as simply the way of the world. To complain was pointless. To adapt with survival. Let us step back again into the broader landscape of the medieval night. In the countryside, darkness swallowed everything. Roads vanished. Forests grew ominous. The wind carried strange cries. Some animal, some... perhaps not. Many believed that witches roamed under the moon, gathering herbs, casting spells, or speaking with spirits. Others feared goblins, restless dead, or the mare, a spirit said to sit on the chest of sleepers and cause nightmares. In towns, night watchmen patrolled the streets, calling out the hours, rattling their sticks, reminding people to keep fires safely banked. The risk of fire was immense, especially in wooden homes, clustered tightly together. Above all this hung a simple truth. The medieval night shaped medieval life. Its dangers, its rhythms, its silence, its cold, all influenced how people slept, prayed, worked, loved, and imagined the world. Now, as you rest and picture the soft glow of a medieval hearth, perhaps you feel something unexpected, a quiet kinship with those who slept before electricity, before clocks, before the pressure to sleep through the entire night. They accepted waking at midnight. They understood darkness as a force to be respected. They slept in groups. They slept close to warmth. They slept with rituals, fears, and comforts that feel distant, yet strangely familiar. In their world, night was not an inconvenience. It was a presence, a teacher, a companion that shaped the entire rhythm of life. And with this gentle reflection, we bring our 6th chapter to a close, carrying with us the soft glow of medieval candles and the steady heartbeat of centuries where sleep flowed like a river, divided into 2 peaceful currents. Monks of the night, silence, discipline, and cold stone floors, let us continue our gentle wandering through history, dear friend, leaving behind the humble cottages and flickering hearths of medieval villagers. Tonight, we step into a different kind of darkness, a sacred one, a world where night was not feared, but embraced, a world where sleep was not simply a human need, but a test of devotion. We are entering the monasteries of the medieval world, places of stone, silence, and unwavering discipline. Here, monks shaped their nights differently from anyone else. Their sleep was not for comfort. It was for purity, humility, and prayer. Imagine the approach to a monastery at dusk. The sun sinks behind distant hills, casting long blue shadows across a quiet courtyard. The air smells of damp stone and freshly turned earth from the vegetable gardens. Birds give their final calls of the evening. A bell tolls once, then twice, slow, resonant, echoing across fields and forests. Inside these walls, life is measured not by personal preference, but by the rhythm of devotion. Every breath, every step, every hour of sleep is part of a sacred order. Let us enter through a wooden door, thick and worn by centuries of hands. Beyond it is a long corridor lit by a single candle. Its flame trembles, small and humble against the surrounding darkness. The dormitory lies ahead. Here, a row of simple beds stretches along the walls, narrow wooden frames topped with straw mattresses. The sheets are coarse linen. The blankets are wool, woven by the monks themselves. There are no pillows, or if there are, they are as thin as folded cloth. Comfort is not the goal here, disciplinees. In fact, some monks slept sitting upright, their backs resting against cold stone pillars, their hands folded in their laps. They believed lying down fully was too indulgent, too tempting. Better to doze lightly, hovering between wakefulness and sleep, ready for prayer at any moment. Imagine the chill of the room, the rough wool against the skin, the sound of quiet breathing, all in unison. The monks slip into bed wearing the same garments they wore throughout the day, thick robes tied with simple cords, and then the silence comes. A deep, enveloping stillness that feels almost otherworldly. No laughter. No conversation. No children crying or travelers snoring. Only the faint echo of wind pressing against thick stone walls. Here, silence is not the absence of sound. It is a form of prayer. The monks close their eyes and fall into shallow, disciplined sleep, their breaths rising and falling like a single, slow tide. But their rest is brief, for soon, often around midnight or earlier, a bell pierces the darkness. The bell of matins, the call to rise. Imagine waking suddenly in an icy dormitory, the moon shining faintly through high-arched windows. Your straw mattress crunches as you shift. Your hands are cold, your face is cold, your very breath feels like a thin veil of frost. Yet the monks rise quietly, no grogginess, no protests, no turning over for a few more minutes of comfort. This moment is not a disruption, it is the heart of their devotion. Night to monks is the purest time to pray. The world is silent. Distractions vanish, the soul feels clearer. Let us follow them now into the chapel. Their bare feet whisper across the floor. Torches light the hallways, casting long, trembling shadows on ancient stone. A scent of incense lingers from the previous day's prayers. Sweet, resonance, calming. Inside the chapel, the space feels vast and cool. High ceilings stretch into darkness. Candles flicker along the altar, pools of golden light in the great shadowed chamber. The monks take their places. No one speaks. Their voices soon rise together, soft, low, steady. A slow chanting fills the chapel, not urgent, not loud, but rhythmic and soothing, like waves brushing the shore. These prayers may continue for hours. Imaginate, now they chant, the candlelight, the cold stone beneath your feet, the unity of voices seeking clarity in the quietest part of the night. When matins ends, the monks sometimes return briefly to their dormitory. For many, this second sleep is short, perhaps an hour, perhaps two. For others, it is skipped entirely as they move into the next prayer office. Sleep, in monastic life, is not a time to dream, but a time to prepare. A cleansing of the mind, a sharpening of the soul. And yet, there is a strange beauty in this austerity. Imagine rising before dawn and stepping into the monastery's cloister. The arches cast soft shadows as starlight filters through. The air is crisp. Dew gathers on the stone floor. A donkey stirs in the distant barn. Somewhere outside, an owl gives one last call. You breathe in the cold, and for a moment, feel the deep serenity that comes only when the world sleeps. Tistiness, this quiet before the day weight descends, is why monks cherished the night. It offered clarity that sunlight could not, but monastic life was not the same in every region. In some monasteries, the dormitories were large communal halls. In others, monks slept in small cells, no bigger than closets, each containing a simple cot and a wooden cross. Some monasteries embraced strict silence. Others allowed whispers. Some required monks to sleep upright or on bare floors. Others permitted thin bedding for warmth. But everywhere, the night was structured, measured, sacred. Even dreams were viewed differently here. While ordinary medieval people feared the nightmares of the night, monks believed dreams could be tests, temptations sent by darker forces, or moments of clarity sent by the divine. Excessive dreaming was discouraged. Sleep was meant to be light enough to avoid falling into long, undisciplined visions. Everything, even dreaming, was part of spiritual training. Imagine, now, a monk waking before sunrise. The sky is still dark. The cold is sharp. His joints ache from the hardness of the bed. But he rises with purpose. He lights a small lamp. He breathes. A short prayer, and he prepares to face a day of labor, study, community, and silence. The medieval monastery was a place where sleep became sacrifice, offered not with bitterness, but with quiet acceptance. A place where discipline shaped every hour. A place where the night, instead of inducing fear, inspired devotion. And yet, beneath all the discipline, there was peace, a deep, resonant stillness that modern life rarely allows. A kind of rest found not in comfort, but in purpose. Now, as you imagine the monks moving through their moonlit halls, perhaps a part of you feels the quiet beauty of their world, the simplicity, the rhythm, the surrender to silence. And with that gentle reflection, our 7th chapter settles softly to a close, leaving behind the cold stone floors, the echo of chanting, and the solemn warmth of those who found peace, not in abundance, but in discipline and night. Night terrors, folklore, demons and ghosts across cultures. As we continue our journey through the nights of the past, we turn toward a part of human history that appears in every culture, no matter the region or era. The fear of what might happen after dark. Before electricity, before bright cities, before the ability to shut out the night with a switch, people lived much closer to darkness than we do today. And across the world, this closeness created stories, explanations for strange sounds, sudden chills, unsettling dreams, and the uncertainty that surrounded sleep. Tonight, we look gently at those stories, not to frighten, but to understand how night shaped human imagination. Let's begin in medieval Europe, where many nighttime fears took the form of a single figure. The night hag? This was not a woman in the literal sense, but an experience, the feeling of waking suddenly, unable, to move, with pressure on the chest and a sense that something unseen was watching. Today, we understand this as sleep paralysis, but for people in the Middle Ages, it felt like an intruder entering the room. Villagers believed a supernatural being sat on their chest, pressing down and stealing their breath. Some said it was a witch. Others said it was a wandering spirit that entered through cracks or keyholes. Doors were barred. Crosses were hung above beds. People avoided sleeping on their backs, believing it made the hag more likely to visit. These experiences were common enough that they became part of everyday discussion. A reminder that sleep, while necessary, was also a time when the body felt vulnerable. Now let us move eastward into Arabian and Persian cultures, where stories of the night took different shapes. Here, people feared encounters with jinn, beings made of smokeless fire. Not all jinn were believed to be harmful, but some were thought to wander the night, especially in quiet or deserted places. A person walking after dark might suddenly feel a cold wind, hear a whisper, or sense a presence they could not explain. If someone woke from a nightmare, they might believe a jinn had passed nearby or disturbed their sleep. Protective phrases and prayers became part of nightly routines. People placed certain objects near doors or windows, or recited words before drifting off. These rituals brought comfort, especially in a time when darkness carried many Travel farther east, into China, where nighttime fears centered not on demons but on hungry ghosts. Spirits believed to wander the world because they were not properly honored or remembered. Chinese tradition holds strong ancestral ties, and when those ties were broken, ghosts were thought to become restless. A hungry ghost might appear in dreams, follow someone home, or cause disturbed sleep. People offered food, burned incense, or performed rituals to calm these spirits. Festivals such as the Ghost Month developed partly as a way to give peace to souls who still lingered in the world of the living. Sleep, during these times, was approached with additional care. In Japan, another figure emerged, Likai, a broad term for supernatural beings that could take many forms. Some were mischievous, some protective, and some unsettling. Stories of these beings were told not only to entertain but to explain unusual nighttime events, a creaking floor, a shadow moving unexpectedly, or a dream that felt too real. While the stories varied, the purpose was the same, to help people make sense of the night. Moving south into Africa, we find yet another set of traditions. Many communities believed in shadow spirits or night walkers, beings that traveled in darkness and interacted with the living through dreams or sensations. These spirits were not always harmful, but they were always respected. Elders taught children not to roam after dark and encouraged families to sleep near the safety of fire and community. In some African cultures, dreams were thought to be visits from ancestors. A positive dream meant blessing or guidance. A frightening dream meant a warning. Either way, the dream connected the living with the spiritual world. Sleep was not private. It was part of a larger relationship with the unseen, whether in Europe, Arabia, Asia, or Africa. Certain patterns repeat again and again. Night is quiet. Night reduces visibility. Night highlights the unknown. And when people face the unknown, they create stories to explain it. Let's return to Europe for a moment, where another nighttime fear emerged. The changeling myth. Parents believed that certain spirits or fairies might enter a home at night and replace a child with an imitation. To prevent this, families kept fires burning, avoided leaving infants unattended, and placed iron near cradles. While these beliefs may sound curious to us now, they highlight a deeper truth. Parents feared the fragility of life, especially before medicine could explain illness. In Scandinavia, the night held its own figures. Some believed in a Mara, a spirit similar to the night hag of other European traditions. Others believed the spirits of the dead roamed freely during the darkest months of winter. To protect themselves, people slept with certain charms or recited simple prayers. Meanwhile, in the Americas, indigenous cultures held rich traditions about dreams and nighttime spirits. Many viewed dreams as journeys or messages, not sources of fear, but of guidance. But they also recognized beings that moved quietly through the dark, such as wind, spirits, or animal messengers. Night carried power, and sleep was a time to connect with it carefully. When we zoom out and look across all these cultures, something becomes clear. Although the details differ, the concerns are the same. People everywhere wondered what happened to them when they slept. They wondered why they dreamed. They wondered what caused nightmares. And they wondered what else might exist in the darkness. Before science offered explanations, folklore filled those spaces, not out of ignorance, but out of human creativity and a desire for control. If a person could name what frightened them, they could prepare for it. If they could prepare, they could sleep. And sleep, in every civilization, was essential for survival. Nighttime fears also helped shape traditions that lasted generations. They influenced the design of bedrooms, the placement of lamps, the position of beds, and the creation of charms or protective objects. In some cultures, beds faced east. In others, they avoided doorways. In many, the hearth remained lit all night. People adapted, learned, and found comfort in small rituals. Sometimes spiritual, sometimes practical. Even today, echoes of these old beliefs remain. Nightmares still bother us. Strange sounds still cause us to pause. Dreams still feel meaningful. And the dark, though less mysterious than before, still holds a quiet power. As we leave this chapter behind, we do so gently. We do not linger on fear. We simply acknowledge that night, for most of human history, was a place of uncertainty. And that uncertainty shaped imagination in remarkable ways. We carry forward the understanding that behind every old story was a person trying to feel safe, trying to protect their family, trying to sleep peacefully in a world much darker than ours. And we that our 8th chapter settles into stillness, allowing us to continue our journey into the more practical, more familiar nights of the past. Sleeping with animals, warmth, companionship, and survival in the modern world. Sleep often happens in a space designed to be private, a bedroom with a door, a bed made for one person or two, and a controlled environment meant to feel comfortable and quiet. But for most of human history, sleep did not look like this. Privacy was rare. Space was shared, and one of the most common companions during the night was not another person, but an animal. Tonight, we explore how people throughout history slept alongside livestock, pets, working animals, and creatures that today we would never imagine sharing a sleeping space with. This chapter is not about quaint traditions. It is about survival, warmth, protection, and necessity. Let's begin in a simple medieval farmhouse. The structure is small, built of wood or watland daub. A single hearth stands at the center of the room, providing heat and light. The family sleeps here. Parents, children, sometimes grandparents, all on straw bedding, arranged around the fire. And beside them, only a few steps away, stand the animals. Cows, sheep, goats, sometimes even horses. Medieval families often kept their animals indoors at night, not because it was convenient, but because it was practical. The body heat of animals warmed the home, which mattered greatly in regions with harsh winters. Fires had to be small and carefully tended, and without central heating, a cold night could be dangerous. The warmth from a cow or a pair of goats could make the difference between comfort and struggle. Imagine the sounds of that environment, the crackling of a small fire, the deep rhythmic breathing of cattle, the gentle shifting of hooves on packed earth, a goat's soft bleat in the early hours of morning. These were normal nighttime sounds, familiar, reassuring, woven into the rhythm of life. Sleep happened in a shared ecosystem, where humans and animals lived side by side. Animals were also a family's livelihood. They produced milk, wool, meat, and labor. Bringing them indoors protected them from theft, wolves, or harsh weather. Losing even one animal could be devastating economically, so nighttime protection became essential. Now, let us move to a different part of the world. The cold northern landscapes of Scandinavia and the British Isles. Here, winters were long and bitter, with temperatures dropping well below freezing. Homes were often small, low-roofed structures built to retain heat. Families slept in wooden box beds or alcoves built into the wall, designed to trap warmth. And inside these homes, dogs played a significant role. Not the pampered pets we know today, but working dogs, herders, guards, and hunters. At night, these dogs slept close to people, sometimes directly on their beds, sometimes at their feet, sometimes curled between two sleepers. Their presence provided heat, but also a sense of security. A dog that raised its head at a noise in the dark could alert the entire household. A dog that remained silent offered reassurance that all was well. Sleeping with dogs is a practice that has survived long into the modern world, especially in rural areas. Even now, many people find comfort in a dog's presence at night, a quiet echo of a bond formed thousands of years ago. Travel now to the high mountain regions of the Alps. Here, livestock, especially sheep and goats, were brought into attats, barns connected directly to living quarters. The walls were thin enough that the family could hear the animals through the night. In many alpine villages, the warmth from these animals kept homes from freezing. Farmers believed that as long as the animals were calm, the household was safe. This arrangement also made early morning labor easier. Shepherds could begin work immediately, milking goats or preparing animals for the day's grazing. Night and morning flowed smoothly into each other. But sleeping with animals was not limited to villages and farms. It was also a reality for travelers. Imagine a medieval merchant traveling long distances. Inns were crowded and expensive, and most travelers could not afford private accommodations. Many slept in stables, resting in straw beside their horses. The stable was warm, relatively safe, and familiar. The presence of a trusted animal made it easier to relax after a long day on the road. Horses themselves were considered loyal companions. Their breathing, their steady warmth, and their calm presence helped weary travelers feel grounded. A person sleeping beside their horse often slept better than in a noisy and full of strangers. In other regions, such as Central Asia, nomadic herders slept in tents alongside their livestock. Sheep or goats might cluster near the entrance to block wind. Dogs circled the camp for protection. Horses stood close by, ready for riding at dawn. For nomadic cultures, animals were not companions. They were essential partners in survival. Move again, this time to wealthy households. Even in royal courts and noble homes, animals played a role in sleep. Many nobles kept lapdogs in their chambers. These small dogs were prized not only as companions but also as natural heaters. Their small bodies produced a surprising amount of warmth. Paintings and writings from the Middle Ages and Renaissance show noble women sleeping with tiny dogs curled at their feet or against their stomachs. For the wealthy, sleeping with animals became a symbol of status, a way to display affection, luxury, or personal taste. But then, the underlying reason remained familiar: comfort. Cats, too, were common nighttime companions. They controlled rodents, moved quietly through dark rooms, and slept lightly, ready to react to sounds humans might miss. In regions where grain stores were vital, a cat's ability to keep mice away meant better food security. Families welcomed them near beds and hearths. Throughout all these examples, one theme appears repeatedly: animals made people feel safe. Because for most of history, sleep was not about luxury. It was about endurance. It was about making it through the night warm, safe, and prepared for the work ahead. Today, we often view sleep as personal and individual, but historically, it was communal, shared with family members, neighbors, and animals. People slept together not because they wanted to, but because it was necessary. As we look back on these nights filled with the soft sounds of breathing cows, the steady presence of dogs, the shifting warmth of sheep or goats, we see clearly how intertwined human life once was with the animals around them. And perhaps you can imagine how comforting it felt to rest beside a creature who offered warmth without question, loyalty without condition, and protection throughout the night. With that understanding, we bring our 9th chapter to a gentle close, a reminder that sleep is shaped not only by where we lie down, but by who lies near us, whether human or animal. Travelers of the dark, inns, roads, and night dangers as we continue our journey through the nights of the past. We turn now to the people who experienced sleep far from the comfort of home, the travelers, merchants, soldiers, messengers, pilgrims, and wanderers who spent their nights on roads that stretched across continents. Travel today has structure. Hotels, lighting, scheduled transportation, and predictable routes. But in the ancient and medieval worlds, travel was slow, uncertain, and almost never safe. And when the sun went down, the dangers multiplied quickly. Tonight, we explore how travelers slept, where they found shelter, and how the night shaped their experiences on the road. Let's begin with something simple. Travel rarely happened at night. Roads were uneven, forests dense, and moonlight was often unreliable. Most people avoided nighttime travel for one reason: danger, thieves, wild animals, uneven terrain, and the possibility of becoming lost were constant risks. And so, as evening approached, travelers sought shelter wherever they could find it. Now, imagine a group of travelers on a medieval road at dusk. A merchant leading a mule loaded with cloth and spices. A young pilgrim walking toward a distant shrine. A messenger carrying a letter sealed with wax. A small family escorting their goods to market. They begin scanning the landscape for smoke, lights, or the silhouette of an inn. Any sign of a place where they might stop for the night. Inns, however, were not like the locations we picture today. Some were well-structured establishments, with multiple rooms and decent meals. Many others were far simpler, more like a barn with a cooking pot than a true lodging house. Let us step inside a typical medieval inn. The building is crowded and warm. The main room serves as kitchen, dining hall, and sleeping quarters for those who cannot afford a bed. Straw covers the floor. Travelers sit at rough wooden tables, eating bread, broth, or ale. A large hearth burns steadily, offering the only significant source of heat. Up a narrow staircase, often creaking, often steep, lie the sleeping rooms. And here is the truth. A traveler almost never slept alone. Rooms were shared, beds were shared, sometimes even blankets were shared. If an inn had 3 beds, 10 or 12 travelers might sleep there. They would lie shoulder to shoulder, feet to head, or however space allowed. A stranger's breath would be close to your ear. Someone else's elbow might bump your side. Privacy simply did not exist in these spaces. Travelers accepted this arrangement because they had no choice. Sleeping outdoors carried profound risk. Forests hid wolves. Roads attracted thieves. Even weather could become life-threatening. Inside an inn, noisy, crowded, and imperfect, there was at least safety in numbers. Imagine the sounds of such a room. Snoring, low conversations, someone shifting on a straw mattress, a dog scratching itself near the hearth below, the wind rattling shutters that don't quite close. And mixed with these sounds, the steady breathing of many people exhausted from long days of walking or riding. Now let's move beyond inns and into the world of wayfarers. These were travelers who could not find or afford traditional lodging. Many slept in barns, stables, or under simple lean-tos offered by sympathetic villagers. In these spaces, sleep was shaped by practicality. Straw bedding, rough wool blankets, a lantern hung overhead. Animals nearby, providing heat and noise. For many, this was normal. A stable might be warmer and more comfortable than a poorly maintained inn. Travelers often slept in groups for protection. 3 or 4 strangers might form a temporary company, sharing stories, food, and watch duties. Because watch duty was necessary, in places where crime was common, someone remained awake for at least part of the night. This person kept the fire alive, listened for footsteps outside, and guarded belongings from theft. Travelers took turns, rotating through the dark hours in a silent agreement that helped everyone rest a little easier. Now let's travel even further back, into the ancient world. In the Roman Empire, extensive road networks made travel relatively smoother than in the Middle Ages. Yet the dangers remained. Along Roman roads, mansionese and way stations provided shelter for official messengers and government travelers. Ordinary people, however, relied on taverns, farmhouses, or campsites. Roman taverns, called tabernae, were busy and often unruly places. People slept on benches, on floors, or in shared rooms. A person with wealth might receive a private space, but most slept wherever space allowed. And like all travelers across history, they kept their belongings close. A bag might be used as a pillow, a belt kept tight around the waist, shoes stored under one's own body. Travel meant constant vigilance. In many regions, nighttime also carried spiritual significance. Travelers believed certain spirits guarded crossroads, while others haunted bridges or forests. People whispered protective prayers before sleeping. Some carried charms or amulets. Others placed their shoes facing certain directions or slept with their heads oriented toward sacred landmarks. These rituals varied by culture, but they all served the same purpose: to make the night feel more manageable. Now, let's move to the world of caravans, especially in the Middle East, North Africa, and along the Silk Road. Caravans traveled vast distances carrying spices, silk, grain, precious metals, and other valuable goods. These groups sometimes included hundreds of people: traders, camel drivers, guards, cooks, and guides. Sleeping arrangements were organized carefully. Travelers slept close together in circular formations. Animals were tied just outside the circle. Guards walked through the night, patrolling the area. Fires burned low but steady, providing warmth and light. Instead of beds, travelers used rugs, blankets, and saddlebags. The desert night could be extremely cold, so a warm fire and a thick-wool blanket were essential. Despite the dangers: bandits, harsh weather, unfamiliar terrain, caravan nights were often described as peaceful. The steady breathing of camels, the faint glow of embers, and the quiet murmur of nighttime conversations created a sense of community among people who might otherwise have been strangers. Travelers found comfort in shared experience. Sleep came more easily when others nearby were also drifting into rest. Across all times and places, travelers learned to adapt. They understood that sleep on the road would rarely be perfect. It would be interrupted, uncomfortable, sometimes tense. Yet night after night, they still rested, because rest was essential to continue the journey. And when morning came, travelers rose early. Pack animals were loaded. Cloaks were shaken free of dust. Bread was eaten quickly. The road called again. What stands out most about sleep during travel is how communal it was. People formed temporary families in inns, barns, stables, and campsites. They slept close to strangers, trusting that together they were safer than alone. They watched over each other. They shared warmth. They shared fear. They shared hopes for good weather and better roads. As we bring this chapter to a close, we carry with us a simple truth. Travel has always required courage, and sleep during travel has always required trust. In the dark corners of busy inns, in stables filled with animals, around campfires, beneath star-filled skies, on cold stone floors of ancient taverns, travelers found rest wherever they could. Not because the places were comfortable, but because the journey had to continue at dawn. War camps after sundown throughout history. Soldiers have lived by daylight and survived by night. For them, sleep was never simply a normal part of life. It was a risk, a necessity, and a moment when vulnerability and discipline met. In this chapter, we explore what happened after the sun went down in ancient and medieval war camps, how soldiers prepared for rest, how they protected themselves, and what it meant to sleep under the constant threat of danger. Let's begin by imagining a large military camp just after sunset. The battlefield is quiet for now. Cooking fires glow in scattered circles. Armor creaks softly as soldiers remove pieces to ease their bodies. The smell of smoke, sweat, dirt, and metal lingers in the air. Tents form long rows. Weapons lean against poles. Horses shift in their enclosures. And though the day's fighting has ended, the challenges of the night have only begun. For most armies, sleep was something taken in small pieces, not in long, peaceful stretches. Soldiers rarely felt completely safe, and the structure of the camp reflected that reality. Night. Vigils. Every war camp divided its soldiers into watch shifts. Some guarded the perimeter, others patrolled between tents, and a few kept watch over supplies or animals. These shifts rotated through the night, ensuring that no one slept for too long or too deeply. A moment of inattention could lead to disaster. The watches carried torches or lanterns. They walked slowly and quietly, listening for unusual sounds, a snapped twig, distant footsteps, a rustling in the grass. Danger often came silently, and a watchman's alertness could save the entire unit. For those not on watch, sleep still came cautiously. Now, step inside one of the tents. The interior is dim. Straw or simple bedding covers the ground. Armor is stacked nearby, not fully removed, because soldiers need to dress quickly if attacked. Many kept their helmets within arm's reach. Others slept with only the lightest layers removed to help them move swiftly in emergencies. Weapons were never far away. A sword or spear often doubled as a pillow. A shield might rest over the legs or chest. This wasn't for comfort. It was for speed. If the alarm sounded, a soldier had only seconds to react. Imagine lying on a rough blanket, hearing the distant crackle of fires, the quiet murmur of voices, and the shifting sounds of hundreds of men trying to settle into rest. Horses snort, metal clinks softly. The night air cools. The tension never disappears completely, even after exhaustion sets in. That exhaustion defined military life. Soldiers often marched long distances, fought difficult battles, and went days with very little rest. When they finally lay down, sleep sometimes came instantly, deeper than any sleep they ever experienced in civilian life. Yet even deep sleep was fragile. Shouts from a watchman, a distant horn, the sound of something moving beyond the camp's edge. Any of these could bring soldiers to their feet in moments, adrenaline overriding fatigue. Campfires and camaraderie before sleep. Evenings in the camp often included shared meals and quiet conversation. Soldiers told stories, checked their equipment, repaired clothing, or cleaned their weapons. These simple routines provided stability in an unstable environment. Campfires played an important role. They offered light and warmth, but they also served as emotional anchors. Sitting near a fire reminded soldiers of home, family, and peaceful moments. For some, the glow of the flames brought enough comfort to ease the transition into sleep. Fear of surprise attacks, the fear of being attacked in the night, was very real. In ancient warfare, some armies relied heavily on the element of surprise. Night raids were common in certain cultures, a way to disrupt sleep, create panic, or weaken morale. Soldiers slept, knowing that at any moment, an enemy force might break through the perimeter. Roman camps, for example, were designed with strict organization to limit this risk. Every night, they built temporary walls and dug ditches around their camp. Guards were posted at exact intervals. Tents were assigned specific positions. Even in unfamiliar territory, Roman soldiers tried to make the night predictable. Other armies used different strategies. Archers placed near the perimeter. Dogs trained to bark at strangers' torches kept burning as warning points. Drums or horns, ready to sound alarms. The goal was simple: reduce uncertainty. Even a little predictability made rest possible. Sleeping in armor in high-risk moments before major battles, or when the enemy was nearby, soldiers sometimes slept in their armor. Not full armor, but enough to provide protection. This was uncomfortable, heavy, and difficult, yet soldiers accepted it as necessary. Imagine the feeling. A metal breastplate pressing against the chest, a leather strap digging into the shoulder, a helmet resting beside the head, ready to be grabbed. Sleep in these moments was shallow and scattered, broken by frequent shifts or adjustments. Still, soldiers made use of every minute they could get. The psychological side of nighttime in war. Night brought physical challenges, but it also brought thoughts that soldiers had kept pushed away during the day. In the quiet, many reflected on the battle, on the people they left behind, or on fears they could not express openly. Sleep sometimes came slowly during these moments, not because of danger, but because the mind finally had space to process. Nightmares were common. So are restless awakenings. For some, the bond with fellow soldiers helped ease these moments. Talking quietly, sharing stories, or simply knowing others were nearby brought comfort. The occasional moments of peace, despite the tension. War camps did have rare moments of genuine calm. A cool breeze after a hot day. The sound of crickets or wind in the grass. A clear sky full of stars. Soldiers noticed these things because they had so few moments to rest and appreciate them. Some even found the night peaceful, a brief pause from chaos, a time when nothing was demanded of them except sleep. How armies survived the night. Ultimately, survival in nighttime war camps depended on a combination of discipline, routine, and shared responsibility. Watch rotations ensured constant vigilance. Fire kept the camp warm and visible. Proximity created safety. Weapons stayed close. Tents were organized carefully. Leaders emphasized structure and calm. These systems made it possible for exhausted soldiers to sleep at least a little, enough to fight another day. Morning in the camp. As dawn approached, the world slowly shifted again. The fires burned low. Armor was strapped back on. Horses were fed. Weapons were examined. Sleep, however brief, ended abruptly. The camp came alive with movement, the metallic clatter of preparations, the low murmur of soldiers discussing plans, the rustling of tents being rolled or tightened. Daylight did not remove danger, but it restored visibility. And in war, visibility meant control. As we step away from the war camp now, we carry with us a clearer sense of what nighttime meant to soldiers. A challenge, a necessity, a vulnerability, and a brief window of rest carved out from uncertainty. Sleep was never guaranteed. Comfort was rare. Fear was constant. But despite all of this, armies learned how to survive the dark together. Returning to the quiet night as our journey through the sleeping worlds of the past comes to an end, we pause for a moment to reflect on everything we have explored together. Across thousands of years, in every civilization and culture, people approached the night with a combination of necessity, caution, and hope. Their habits, fears, and rituals may seem distant from our own lives, yet at their core, they reveal something shared and deeply human. Night has always been a time when the world slows down. Light fades. Routine pauses. The noise of daily life softens until only the essentials remain. For ancient humans sleeping beside fires, for Egyptians dreaming in temples, for Mesopotamians protected by clay amulets, for Greeks seeking answers in philosophy, for Romans adjusting linen sheets, for medieval villagers rising for a second. Sleep for monks waking to midnight bells, for travelers resting in crowded inns, and for families sleeping close to animals. The night was a constant presence. It shaped how people lived. It shaped how they understood themselves. And it shaped how they rested. Let us take a moment to look back at where this journey has taken us. In the beginning, we saw early humans sleeping under open skies, relying on fire, closeness, and shared watchfulness. Their sleep was light, shallow, and shaped by the need to survive in a world filled with uncertainty. We then walked into Egypt, where sleep became a sacred act. Temples, incense, linen, bedding, and dream rituals gave rest a spiritual dimension. Dreams were studied carefully, interpreted as messages from gods, and treated as signs of destiny. In Mesopotamia, we found a different outlook, one shaped by protective charms, night guardians, and clay tablets, filled with dream interpretations. Sleep was monitored closely because it was believed to be a moment of vulnerability when harmful forces might approach. Greece and Rome offered a blend of philosophy, luxury, and everyday struggle. While the wealthy enjoyed feather-stuffed mattresses and perfumed rooms, many slept on rooftops, in crowded apartments, or in simple bedding placed wherever there was space. Dreams were debated by scholars, but also used by generals and emperors to make decisions. We then stepped into the medieval world, where night routines looked very different from ours. People experienced segmented sleep, rising in the middle of the night for prayers, conversation, or quiet reflection. Straw beds, shared spaces, and candlelit rooms were the norm. Rituals helped ease nighttime fears, especially in a world without reliable light. Monasteries added another perspective. Here, sleep was an expression of discipline and devotion. Monks slept lightly, rose early for prayer, and accepted discomfort as part of their spiritual training. Night became a time for clarity rather than rest alone. We explored the fears that shaped the nights of many societies. Witchcraft, spirits, demons, and unexplained nighttime experiences. These beliefs developed because people did not have scientific explanations for nightmares, illness, or sleep paralysis. Their interpretations may differ from our own, but the desire to understand the unknown remains unchanged. We then looked at how common it once was to sleep with animals. Warmth, safety, and companionship made animals essential partners in nighttime life. Families depended on their presence, both emotionally and practically. After that, we followed travelers, the merchants, messengers, pilgrims, and caravan leaders who slept in inns, on straw floors, inside barns, under tents, or beside their animals. Their sleep was shaped by constant movement, uncertainty, and the need to trust strangers or companions on the road. Finally, we examined the age of nighttime fear, when mass hysteria, witchcraft accusations, and spiritual interpretations influenced how people slept and how they understood their nighttime experiences. These fears reflected deeper concerns about illness, sudden misfortune, and the limits of human knowledge. Across all these chapters, a single theme emerges. Human beings have always looked for safety in the dark. They have always searched for meaning in their dreams, and they have always shaped sleep around the world they lived in. Even though our beds today are more comfortable, our rooms more private, and our nights far brighter than those experienced by people in the past, the connection remains. We still seek comfort. We still worry about things that feel unclear. We still turn to routines, rituals, or calming practices before sleep, and we still rely on the night as a moment of recovery after the noise of the day. There is something grounding in knowing that millions of people, across thousands of years, have ended their days, in much the same way, by lying down, closing their eyes, and trusting the night to hold them until morning. As you reflect on these histories, you may notice that sleep is not only a biological need, it is a cultural experience. It carries memories, emotions, traditions, and unspoken concerns from one generation to the next. And while the fears of ancient and medieval people might feel distant, the desire for rest, peace, and comfort is exactly the same. So as we bring this final chapter to a close, let's take a quiet moment together. The stories we've explored do not need to be held tightly. Just let them drift softly to the back of your mind, as if settling into the quiet corners of memory. You don't need to remember every detail. It is enough to simply know that you have walked through many nights of the past, and now you are returning to your own night with a little more understanding. The pace slows. The world quiets. Your body settles into its own version of rest. You might notice your breathing softening, your shoulders lowering, your thoughts becoming steadier and less crowded. These final moments are meant to guide you gently into your own sleep. A sleep shaped not by fear or pressure, but by a sense of connection to the long history of humans who have done the very same thing. And now, as this journey ends, the spoken story grows quiet. The night around you becomes steady, and the soft music begins designed to continue where the words leave off, helping you drift naturally into deeper rest. Thank you for walking through history with me. Thank you for staying until the final chapter. And most of all, thank you for allowing this quiet exploration to accompany you into the night. You are safe. You are warm. Your day is complete. Now, let the rest begin. And so, dear traveler of the night, our gentle wanderings come to an end. We have walked through forgotten bedrooms, sacred temples, humble straw huts, and echoing monasteries, and watched the world drift to sleep across thousands of years. From pharaohs wrapped in linen, to shepherds curled beside their animals. From monks waking in the dark, to medieval families whispering prayers against the unknown. Night has always been our oldest companions, sometimes fearful, sometimes comforting, always mysterious. As you rest now, perhaps you feel a little closer to those who came before us. They slept beneath the same moon, wished upon the same stars, and chased the same fragile dreams that we still carry today. Let your breath soften. Let your eyes grow heavy, and let the last echoes of history fade gently into the quiet of your own room. Thank you for joining me tonight, dear friend. May peace settle over you like snowfall. May your dreams be gentle and warm, and may the night hold you kindly until morning comes. I'll leave you now in the care of soft music. Sleep well, rest deeply, and remember, you're safe. You are Eld, and the night is yours.